we're going to go over to the retail space that's in the base of the BART parking lot now.
An anchor tenant, which is the Chicken and Waffles. They have a lease with BART to build out a third of the space, and then to then rent out the other space to complementary types of restaurants or businesses. Currently, unfortunately, have not gotten the investment to do the build out. Help to them to negotiate their contract with BART and to get a lease, but they still have not come up with the build out. Yeah. So I don't know, Darren, if you want to make any other comments about it.
Yeah, it's back to that mom and pop I was talking about. This is a family-owned business. The limited resources, they want to do it. They had this space tied up for 2 years. And it's just that the ability to come up with the amount of money that we needed to build out a shell that's nothing but a slab. You know, it needs to be stubbed, there's no plumbing, so we're looking at for a small mom and pop to come into like a place like this, just to get in the door. You got a restaurant, you got to put a vent in, you got to do all of those things. You're talking about $500,000.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you think, okay, how much chicken and waffles can I sell to make back that $500,000 before I can go to the profit? It is a business. I mean, I know a lot of people go into business because it's my passion. I love it. I want to walk in the door and see my family and friends sitting there having the meal that I prepared. They make it an extension of their kitchen, their own private dining room. But at the end of the day, it's a business. So you want to return on your investment.
Visibility is very important. Of course, that drive-by visibility for this particular location already exists.
Right.
So it does raise the question of, well, what else? You know, what else would help catalyze it? I'm looking across the street there. That's an example of an underutilized site that in a 20-year time frame, since you guys are doing kind of long-range plan, might redevelop. And there's some part of that site which in a near-term time frame, you know, might be available. And that's the kind of thing that if it's of appropriate height and so forth, then all of a sudden you have an outdoor room and you have this sense of place.
Yeah.
And this is a very important location also. It's a sense of arrival coming up the underpass, and these two corners actually are gateway corners for you into your downtown.
Yes.
Yeah, if I could just add one thing too, that when we were doing the walk audit for the form-based code with the community, I think what we all really realized, which I hadn't up until that point, was that McDonald is sort of a series of missing teeth, and where you have one side that has a front, but the other side doesn't.
Right.
And so it just constantly is going back and forth, and I think the area that is the most active is between 11th and Harbor because both sides are completed.
That's correct.
And so I think that's one of the very important pieces that as we think about the next phase for the city is making sure we sort of focus on creating those two active fronts, because I think that is a challenge. So if you want to establish a building here, but you're looking at a vacant lot that is either being dumped on or just doesn't look good, do you think that it may detract from your business? And so
is that privately owned, and would they be willing to redevelop or change? I mean, if you take that away from the dentist, they might say, hey, that's going to take away from our business. So
yeah, well, I mean, they have their parking lot.
They have the parking lot.
So.
And then across is the empty lot here.
So that's
which is
what
an
we're
odd,
about.
it's a kind of odd.
So that will stay
right,
these can.
I think, Ramon, the answer would be, as an urban designer, you might be able to convince them.
I agree with you.
But if you're going to convince them, you're going to have to meet them on their own terms.
Yeah.
So it's
going to be more business.
So you would sit down with that property owner. You talk about their long-term aspirations. If they want to maintain the dental business and they want to still have parking, can the parking be rearranged where it could still allow the street front to be developed? Also remember that again, there's the near term and the long term, and I think this is going to be one of the challenges for you guys as students, because I'd really like you to try to address both. There are examples of liner buildings, which are, only 40 feet deep and only 1 story tall, which can go in relatively easy and create that more immediate sense of enclosure and activity across the street. But then there's also simultaneously long-term aspirations to get the investment that would have the high intensity and the high density and bring even more people and probably better quality and deeper retail space. So again, put on your creative thinking caps, guys.
I do really like the idea of this block being developed. I know it's really focused on it, but as you mentioned, that entryway when you drive up, right, and as well when you walk out of the BART station, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the starts the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to focus on Gateway. So then,
Yes.
So then you would also, guys, we're going to push the envelope. I'll warn our guests here that, these guys are charged with pushing the envelope, going with narrower travel lanes if they think they can really yield something special in terms of the streetscape. If you look back to the roadway that takes the buses in and out of the bus station and all, this is a lot of asphalt, guys. Yeah. And you got to wonder whether there might be a way to still meet the functional needs of all this traffic pumping in and out of the station, but do it in a way that also supports a walking connection. The walking connection between here and that front of the BART station is a little bleak right now. So what could you do from a design standpoint to make the walking connection between this corner and the BART station even nicer?
Yeah, well, this part of the streetscape was redeveloped in 2009, and they did do some street calming and bike lanes and different things. So some of that work has been done from 16th to Harbor Way.
One thing that this area really has going for it are the the quality of these streetscape improvements along McDonald Avenue and along Nevin are really fabulous. They really are good.
Well, we have just across the street here a new business that opened almost 2 years ago. And so Richmond is now becoming more and more of a biking community. And so Rich City Rides, it's a bike repair shop as well as a retail shop, and they also run a nonprofit. So interesting business model. There is one property owner that owns the whole building, and the building has been broken up into a couple of different businesses. They've got the Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center, which offers training and small businesses for small businesses. And in the back, I believe, is another like auto type of business. So, there's a lot of opportunity to work with some of the property owners to, if they're interested, do kind of pop-up type of businesses and that kind of thing. The problem that we've had is that a lot of the business owners or property owners are absentee and are not as engaged. The good news is that more and more of these properties are being, bought. And so we see more folks that are interested in actually purchasing and working with the community now, but we still do have a good number of absentee property owners, and they are disengaged. So.
Yeah, that can be very challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, so perception. What could you do to really make things really nice, really inviting? You look at this one property across the street is having a sheet against your window and a bunch of security bars.
Right.
Really the best thing to do.
In terms of the opportunity for pop-ups, Richmond Main Street held a pop-up event last year here in this open retail space for the chicken and waffles. And it was really successful, and it kind of gave people an idea of what could be if there were actually a business there. And potentially we're looking at having the Economic Development Commission to have another foodie beverage pop-up event in this location. They can't do it.
Right.
But it's another idea about bringing people to the area, having them imagine, what could be. So those are ideas that we're working on.
Fantastic. And of course it would take the agreement of that property owner, but you could imagine at least art hanging in the windows or something.
Yes.
I know that
So
you guys
we
have a
do
program
that.
like that too,
Yes,
right?
we do.
Yeah. So funny.
Are all three of these buildings, are they used?
So the one on the corner with the blue awning, that is a business that's actually operating, and right next to it is a barber shop, and that's a business, and then the other ones are empty. Yeah.
So we're going to walk back this way and just look at the Richmond Transit Village one more time.
Okay.
Urban design lesson, you know, so it's nice for residents to have a little open space amenity, but it's really important, if it's accessible to the public, that it really be protected and have eyes on the streets. We talked about that at class a little bit, right, where all the building fronts are facing into that open space, and as many entrances as possible are off of that open space. Backs to backs, fronts to fronts, or fronts to sides, you know, always kind of keep track of that. When you're doing a really large apartment building, of course, you don't have the alley, the parking's in the middle of the block. This is a pretty nice street cross section. It's got the on-street parking, which serves as a kind of metal barrier between where the cars are and where people are walking. It's got the row of street trees. It's got this module that's the landscaping and the street trees. The street trees offer a canopy. And then the traffic lanes, I'm eyeballing those. Those look like they're at their minimum, which means that cars go slower, particularly if there's two cars coming at each other in opposing directions. They have to slow down for that little bit and all. And so it sends a real signal to slow down. And then another nice device is this use of a bump out or curb extension right where people are crossing. So rather than having to stand back here, you know, and having to walk even farther and being in a place where the approaching car doesn't see you as easily, now you can walk right up here. The car sees you, and you really only have a little way to go. Okay, so curb extensions, refuge areas, and bigger streets, those are all nice devices for pedestrian safety.
We do have an open space and a little community park there. Another empty retail space. And right now we have local photographers art on display here.
It's challenging, and I suppose this space is challenging in part because, you know, there's not the drive-by visibility.
But then there's all these residents that are here, and there's right across the street from Social Security. So
Okay.
there's still a lot of opportunity as well. But the build out is really what is the challenge. So we have a farmers market. Our partner is the Pacific Coast Farmers Market, and it is a seasonal market that is here May through November, and we kind of capitalize off the employees that are here in the federal building, about 2,000, and then Kaiser is just up the street, just another block. So we get lots of folks as well as residents that are in the area to visit the farmers market on Wednesdays.
And there's food trucks.
There's a food.
There weren't at the
food
beginning,
vendors.
but now there are food trucks with long lines and kettle corn with long lines.
Now I will pause for a minute. I will note that this is closed to traffic.
Yes, and
Right.
that we have said
And-
that was, but so it's kind of 6 on one hand, half dozen on the other. We wanted to really capitalize again off of the Social Security folks who have a short lunch period. Although they are now doing more walking around the downtown, they don't really get out of the building quite that much. By choice. And also Kaiser employees also have a very short lunch time.
And the parking for these employees is right over here.
It's right
Yeah.
So for some of them, it's drive to there, walk in the building, stay in the building all day, leave at the end of the day.
Yes, that's
The ones
correct.
that come in by BART are going to move this
Exactly.
direction.
Yeah.
Half.
One question: the people that work right here, do they have a cafeteria inside?
They do have a
So they
cafeteria.
don't have. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Right.
They have a lot of amenities
They do. They have a banking. They have a child care facility. I mean, it's you know, it's its own little.
They're
community.
self-contained.
They are self-contained.
That's the wall we need to break down.
So now, remind me, I think this is in the form-based code. Nevin is also designated as being a more active street, right? Is there actually more retail-like uses that are hoped for
I think
along Nevin, or
we
not?
prioritize McDonald's.
Okay.
And I think we were a little bit more flexible on the backside of Nevin. I think, you know, we've looked and approved a project on this site before, and we're getting ready to go out with an RFP to resell this property. And I think our priority is still to make sure we get the commercial front on McDonald and be flexible in the back, because I think that's some of the critiques of form-based code or just even city planning, and that require too much retail and then it sits vacant like this. And so we really are focusing on nodes in different places and then making sure that McDonald is that retail.
Of course, McDonald is a very wide street. So there may be places where there's a side street where you want to return the retail so you can have a more intimate space in between. Closing a street is always a tricky thing. And, you know, I think one of the challenges with Nevin is that it's, well, partly because it doesn't have development along one side of it, but it's also a little bit of a cul-de-sac. Yeah. You know, the way it's arranged now. Yeah. And these guys had seen a slideshow just on Thursday that showed shared streets as sort of a both-and solution, where you can have your farmer's market and close the street, but then you could still have low levels of traffic kind of come through and make that connection and all. Is that making sense to you guys? Right? So I'm not saying you should do that, but I want you to think about Nevin. I think is a challenging street. It's a challenging street. It has fairly low traffic volumes, which will make it more challenging to have active uses along it. And at the same time, it's this vital pedestrian connection between BART and Social Security and Kaiser Hospital.
Exactly.
So how do you make it all work? That's what I'm wondering.